So this is Jamel Campbell. He has 17 years, I believe, 18 years experience as an early years practitioner. And what I really love about him is his passion for being an early years practitioner. So, but what I also love about him is he has no apologies for not looking like the typical early years practitioner as well. So if you see any panels or conferences about early years, men in the early years, diversity in the early years, he's always there. I was lucky enough to be at an early years conference where Jamel was one of the speakers. He's been on the BBC, and I trust him enough to babysit my kids. So, whoa, that's a big one. So no further ado, there's Jamel Campbell.
Hello. All right, first of all, I'd like to apologize for my lateness. London transport is crap. I've just come from my day job in North London. So, from North London to up here is crazy. But I want you all to get relaxed, and I want you all to enjoy this evening's keynote. I want to start off first by saying thank you. A big thank you for Dr. Chungi and colleagues for inviting me to this wonderful establishment. It's not every day that you have someone that works on the ground on a daily basis speaking to people that have masters and PhDs and CEOs and all that kind of stuff. The position I'm in right now is a big one, and it is humbling. Let me start off by telling you my story. So I'm from a little town called Lewisham in southeast London, and there's not a lot of guys like myself that dream to do what I do. A lot of them aspire to be sportsmen, footballers, play tennis, basketball, and a lot of them want to be rappers. But for me, I kind of stumbled into this profession. Do you know what? It's such a crazy journey, because on this weekend I was actually with the person, that actually ushered and helped to get me into this profession. Because before that, I was running backwards and forwards. I didn't have a real clear goal. I didn't really have a clear direction, and my mentor, my youth worker, my uncle, my pastor, my advisor, sat me down and said, you know what, you're good at youth work. Come to the youth club, come and work, come and show me what you can do, because the children in your area, they respect you, they respond to you very well. And I started off doing youth work with a company called CIP, Community Inclusion Project. And we done a project that enabled the youth in the community, the local community of Lewisham, to create their own solutions, because there's a lot of stabbings going on, just like today, a lot of shootings, a lot of robberies, a lot of crime, a lot of children being expelled from schools. And what we would do is we would take those children in and help them to do their GCSEs, study, do homework, and so on. One day my uncle said to me, he goes to me, do you know what, why don't you go and get a qualification? I hated school. I was just like, all right, you know what, I'm gonna go in. What qualification should I do? He said, why don't you try and go and, health and social care is a start, see how it goes, So I went in and I studied health and social care. Now, while studying health and social care, I was told to do a few placements, So I worked in a school, I worked in a nursing home, I worked in the youth club, and then I worked in a nursery, a local nursery, and the response was amazing. And the children, they just loved me straight away. And because it was in my local area, the children were then able to connect with me, and some of the parents actually knew me. And from that, I was then able to pursue the path that I'm on now, And the early years is so important, because we are the ones that set the foundation bricks for the rest of these children's lives. We are their first point of call. We help them in so many ways, be it emotionally, be it physically, be it socially. Our interaction has such a great impact on their lives. You know, and sometimes, you know, when we're reading our textbooks, it's good to, how do you say it, sit down and refer to Vygotsky and Piaget and all the rest of them. But do you really understand the effect that our role has on these children? And I feel like, and I know from what I do daily, that sometimes that gets overlooked by our workloads. You know, we've got our head in our paperwork, we're ticking, we're marking, and we go into this, you know, this conveyor belt style of working where we don't even acknowledge the great things that we do. You know, a lot of time in the media you see people pinpointing, do you know, I don't want to stand behind her, pinpointing the negatives about men in early years. You know, talking about, oh, there's not enough men. Oh, men shouldn't be looking after children. Oh, all the prejudice and discrimination rubbish. But no one talks about the good practice. The fact that John in the nursery in Glasgow helped a child to mark me, and Steve in the nursery in Twickenham helped a child to toilet. You know, it is important that these things are not overlooked. You know, and from working in different nurseries over these 18 years, I've seen so much great practitioners, teachers, OTs, education psychologists, sociologists, anthropologists, different professionals in our field that work with children. And the things, the common goal, the common focus is that we want to see children thrive. We want to see children thrive. I work with children that are neurotypical, and I work with children that are neurodiverse. But the goal is still the same. The goal is still the same. The impact is still the same. No one is more important than the other. Just because you've got a degree and I don't have a degree doesn't make your role more important than mine. Just because you're a CEO and I work on the ground doesn't make your role important than mine. Just because you're an area manager or you work for Ofsted doesn't make your role more important than mine. My role is important. And it's important, so important that we must read regardless of your level academically, regardless of what your knowledge is like, if you like reading or not. Audiobooks. Listen, there's always a way to study. There's always new paperwork, frameworks, legislation that comes out. We need to stay up to date, you know? And I say that to say this. I'm currently studying. I've been doing all this early years work for ages, for 18 years. And it's only now that I've decided to go and do my degree. And I'm studying education studies, primary, because I've been working early years all this time, and I've actually supported a few children in primary school settings and teenagers and so on with needs. But I crave knowledge. I want to learn what it's like to teach. And it's so funny when you compare your practice as an early years teacher, as an early years educator, to those in schools, you see that there is no real difference. There is no real difference. Be it learning sequencing of numbers or phonetical awareness, we are all doing the same thing. But the most important thing is, we need to know the basics. We need to know the basics. We need to know the difference between the prime and the specific, and we need to support the prime with the specific, and the specific with the prime. Everything goes hand in hand, people. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, just like our roles, just like the importance of our roles. And that's just a bit about my journey, and that's just a bit about the way I think. Another thing I want to talk about is, as the lovely Dr. Chunyi said, it's about diversity. How much guys do you know that go into the university and speak and wearing a tracksuit, and he has a gold tooth, and he's black? How much of them? How much black CEOs do you know? I've only met 2. Do Do you know what I mean? We need to address diversity. It doesn't matter what you look like or where you come from. You can do what the rest are doing, and you have the right to do what the rest are doing. You have the right to be great. You have the right to make an impact. That's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you and make all the other youth know, the ones that are on the streets, the ones in the council estates, the ones that are from families that are from low incomes, they're from grassroots areas, to tell you, look, you can do it. You can make an impact. You can make a change. Forget what the Conservatives are saying. Forget what the Tories are saying. Forget what Lib Dems are saying. You can make an impact. I make an impact with the things that I do day to day in my classroom. You know, for instance, let me give you an example and make you laugh. Our children, our SEND children, and I'm always talking about them to Hannah and my other colleagues, you know, and I mention them sometimes to yourself. You know, my children are all SEND. I've got a class of, 9 now, and they're all unique. They're all unique, and they're young ASC boys, and you could imagine what it's like on a daily basis, you know. Some are running left, some are running right, some are climbing, some are licking things, some are... But it really takes you, it really grounds you when you sit back and you observe these children and observe what they're doing, and then you set up an environment that helps them to then engage in something that helps their development. Simple thing I set out today, simple thing, we overlook it. Colanders and spaghetti and pasta. You know, the teacher of the room said, guys, we need to, you know, some of the parents, they're really concerned about mark making. And, you know, we want the children to mark make and such, you know. But the teacher's like, they can't do that right now because of their specific needs. But this is what the parent wants. The parents are putting this weight on these children. And some of them can't even hang up their coats by themselves without a bit of support. So I said, you know what? Why don't we put out some pasta and spaghetti and stuff and some colanders? And I'll sit there and role model, and if they want to join, they join. So I sat down, was threading, and one of the busiest young men, busy, he's always busy, he's always over there, flitting, came over, leant on me like this, and started threading. And I said, oh my gosh, come, quick. And it felt so good, it made me feel so good inside. That is why we do this, because it makes us feel good inside. You know, they say that the early years, you know, if you're looking for financial gain, you shouldn't work in the early years. If you're a man, you might get looked at a bit. But I'm having fun. I'm having fun daily. You know, I enjoy what I'm doing. You know, and the next thing I'll do for them, I'll set up some pasta again. Maybe we'll do some threading, make some chains and stuff, and we'll try. That's all we can do. Because what we do makes an impact. Can you say it with me, people? Impact. Because these people are going to be the people. These young children, they are people. These people are going to be the ones that are running this country. So, if we've got a cosmopolitan clientele, why don't we have a cosmopolitan workforce? Why don't we have cosmopolitan CEOs? Not everybody can be a CEO. I admit that. You know, some of us, we just prefer to be on the ground. Some of us prefer to get to a level chill. You know, it's too much work. You know, we don't know all the finance side of things, and obviously safeguarding, and oh yeah, you've got to deal with Ofsted. You know, people think Ofsted's like Voldemort and them guys. I don't know, but you know, I don't mind Ofsted. I like Ofsted. You know, you know, you see who's real and who's fake when Ofsted comes about. To be honest. You know, you see who's really about the children and who's really got good practice when Ofsted comes about, because the people that aren't doing certain things, as soon as Ofsted comes about, they shape up. When area managers come about, they shape up, you know? But anyway, what we do makes an impact. And there's many, like on my journey, I've met so many males. Guys, people think, oh, there's only a little bit of male. But there are so many males. But the problem that we have in the early years is retention. It's not recruitment. We're not keeping them. We're not keeping them. You know, stressed. Males are coming in. Do you know what, Jay? Bro, I can't be bothered to come in. I just can't be bothered. It's too much. And they're not only getting it from people on the outside, they're getting it from people on the inside too. You know, you're looked at in a way. You are judged. Like I had people, members of staff, look at me funny because I was young and I was part of the management team. I was a room leader, and they're like, okay, what does he know? You know, he's only approaching 30. Like, what does he know? And I'm telling them, oh guys, listen, we need to do this. Natural resources, blah, 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 blah. That's throw away the plastic fruits and veg. We don't want that. We want natural stuff. You know, we want to take them to the greengrocers, create an experience, make them buy some dragon fruit. Oh, there's dragon fruit. I never knew about. Yeah, do you know there's dragon fruit, guys? Okay. And we can still use plastic toys like Lego bricks. Everything has its place, but we can do mixed materials. And oh, yes, and the environment needs to be neutral too, because some of our children might be hyper or hypersensitive and so on, so we need to cater for their needs. Wait, how do you know all of this? I read. And I've been doing this for a very long time. Don't underestimate people. People are always reading books by looking at their cover. I could have came in there with a hoodie and made the same speech. You know? People see me on the bus or train and think he's just another guy from the streets. He's gonna mug me, take my phone or something of the sort. But I can sit down with you and hold a lengthy conversation about let me think of something astounding. The zone of proximal learning? I don't know. Or we could talk about social construct. These things are all important. All of the themes and theories that we learn when we're doing our degrees or we're learning our level 3s can be used in modern day society, not just for the children. Social construct. What is social construct, guys? What is social construct? We have so much racist bigots and idiots that know these things but don't know how to use them in a practical sense. We all share knowledge. Every day on Twitter we talk to each other. We learn something new. So we know the difference between a pit bull terrier and a Dalmatian. You know? We know the difference. We do know the difference. So why don't we use our brains? Because what? Because what? If we used our brains, then there would be a big change in our society. And that's what we want. We want change in our society and the way that we view each other and the way that we view early years. Because what happens to the early years now is we're seen as what are we seen as, guys? Oh, you're gonna open up, you work in a creche. No, I don't work in a creche. So where do you work then? I work in a nursery. Well, now I work in a nursery that's in a school, but it's a creche, right? No, there's a difference between a creche and a nursery. Did you know that? Did you know that? You know, my cousin said to me the other day, he goes, you know what, Jay, you know what we should do? We should open up creches in businesses. That's what we should do. We should open up creches in business. And I said, cuz, and this was last week. I said, cuz, no, I'm not opening up a creche. A creche is a place where you leave your child for an hour, they play, you collect them, you go about your business. Where I work is an establishment of learning. Just like a university, college, or any primary school, secondary school, and etc. Did you know that? He goes, no. I goes, do you know about the EYFS? No. Because you've got like 4 children. You don't know about the EYFS? No. But you sent your kids to nursery, right? Your children to nursery. Yeah, yes. But you never read their learning? No, because you know what? When they get to school. No. Let's talk about this. So I broke it down to him. And by the end of our conversation, he was just like, wow, okay. You really know your stuff. And I said, yeah, well, I've only been doing it for like 1 year, you know? And he was like, no, you've been doing it for ages. I said, of course I've been doing it for ages. This is why I'm not hearing that, and I want to change your mindset. And that's not only my cousin. That's how a lot of people are thinking, you know? The early years is not rated. It is not respected. It is not given the acknowledgement that it deserves, even by government. Look how long they've been fighting, like the early years consultants and all the higher ups have been fighting just to get a little funding, a little money, so we can raise people's wages and raise provisions and raise the quality of service. You know, Tony Blair. Remember Tony Blair wrote a document in like, whenever he was around, you know, but he wrote a paper. I think it was called, was it the Green Paper or something like that? I can't remember, but it was about the provision of services in early years, you know, and it was about the importance of the early years. So why is our minister now not as, you know? And guys, seriously, the early years plays such a deep part. I've mentioned it before, and I'm going to keep mentioning it. I've been holding back a lot, but I remember working in a specific establishment, yeah, and in that establishment they had in a nursery, yeah, and when they had the attacks in London, we were on lockdown for, I think it was around about 3 to 5 hours, around about that, and we had 37 children with us, and those children trusted us. Their parents couldn't get to them. Their parents were, you know, panicking. You know, some of the parents, all of the parents were, some of them were in the building, some of them were out on meetings, and a few of them actually managed to get to the nursery and be with us, you know. And we told all our children, we said, you know what, guys, we're gonna have a sleepover. And the children trusted us so much that we were able to put them to bed, and they were able to sleep and be comfortable, because we had built up that relationship with them. Do you see the importance of impact? Impact. You know, and I've worked in grassroots areas, and I've worked in well-known establishments. And the theme is always the same. The theme is always the same. And just to go back into retention and recruitment, we need to look after our staff, you know? We need to look after each other. We need to check on each other. Even in a university, you need to ask, Dr. Chungi, are you okay? How are you today? How are you really feeling? And not just ask because, you know, it's the right thing to do, like saying good morning or excuse me or hello or having manners. No, you need to really care. Take a minute at your time, because there's so much people that are going through things. You know, I've been working in childcare and I've had friends die. You know, a friend of mine got shot, someone's had cancer, someone's had this, and I've had to come in and smile and crack on and make sure that I'm on my A game so the children that I'm working with are not affected. You know, people are going through things. We don't know their stresses. Everyone's narrative is different. Everyone's narrative is different. So we need to make sure that when we're interacting with each other, that we really work as a team. Not in any kind of tokenistic way, no. Not just because paperwork says so, and our job description and our codes of conduct instruct us to, and policy says, and the UNICEF rights of the child, blah, 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 says so. No, we need to really care for each other. We need to care for each other. So when I'm talking to you today, I'm talking from the heart, you know? I'm talking to you so you can go and talk to someone when I'm not here and I'm gone and you look, forget about me, you know? You need to talk to your friends, you need to talk to your teams, you need to talk to your management. I think one of the hardest jobs anyone can do is being a manager, a teacher, a lecturer, because you've got the pressure from the higher ups. You know, sometimes people forget that. People think you're Superman, Superwoman. You know, and that's what affects retention, because of the stress that happens. You know, there's a knock-on effect, a domino effect, which then causes Jamel to say, do you know what, today I can't be bothered to come in, I'm sick, blah blah blah. My week of illness then has a knock-on effect on someone else that has to cover and do all the jobs that I didn't do. So then what do? We call in an agency. We call in cover. Someone that is not used to the setting, that works in the setting, and the children know, they're like, who's this? Okay, let's play a game, let's tie him up, let's throw rice at him, do you know what I mean, or her. And then the pressure then is left on the remaining staff members that are based in the nursery, or based in the setting, the school, the university and whatnot, And then what happens? They call in sick. So now you're down 2 members of staff. So what do you have to do? Call in an agency. So now you've got 2 agencies in your setting, in your school, in your and so on. And it causes a domino effect, which then causes strain on the manager, on the team. Everybody's unhappy. Everyone's arguing. No one's feeling like they're being listened to. Because no one's actually in the wrong. Everyone's just going through their own thing. And then when you recruit someone new, they walk in and they can see what's going on. They can feel it. I don't think this is a place I want to stay. I'm working. I don't like this place. So they leave. And then the ones that do stay inherit all the pressure, all the rubbish, and make room for another 2 members of staff to leave. And then you're just left with this whirlwind that's spiraling out of control. I checked the statistics for how many men are in the education sector, and there's only 14%. 14% of males in the education sector. And in nurseries, there's only 3. So then what I did is I asked Chadai Tiempo, I don't know if you know him, he's from the University of Bristol. What that figure would be like if you broke it down into BAME. And he said that it was, let me just quote him properly because I don't want to be telling any lies. He said, bum 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 badum badum bum bum bum. Okay. So he said that it worked out to be something like 0.3% of BAME males. Wow. And I'm not saying that like people of BAME are hard done by in any way, you know what I mean? As a black man myself, you know, like we go through things like everybody else, you know, and there is obviously the elephants in the room, but we don't need to address that today. But could you imagine what it's like for people that live in that come from a grassroots area, that have other pressures around them, surrounding like their families, or because, you know, there's a lot of expectations from people that come from areas like Lewisham or Brixton or Peckham. I'm just naming South London places because I'm from South and proud, you know? But could you imagine the pressure that comes on them? And as a black man, like, my nan's like, why? Like sometimes, you know, she's like, oh, how's it going with the baby them? Are you playing with the baby them? You know? Me know say, I do a good job, you do a good job. I say, yes, Nana, I am, man. But when, you know, yeah, make sure you save a little money, you know? Because money is the focus. You know, a lot of us are suffering. I know my neighbor, one of my neighbors has to go to the food bank. Like, it's crazy. You know, I'm finding out about apps where you can buy leftover food. People are suffering. So could you imagine what it's like for guys that come from a grassroots area that have the toxic masculinity pressure on their shoulders to be a provider for their families? Could you imagine? Ask them how their day is going. Ask them how they're doing. How's their family? How's their mom? You know? And I just think the pressures go on, man. And that's what's affecting retention and recruitment. And I think that we need to actually be proud. As I said in the beginning, speak about the good. Speak about the positive. How much reports have we seen in the news about the early years? I'm sick and tired of hearing about Brexit. I'm sick and tired of hearing about Boris. You know? I really want to hear about some good stuff, some good news. I don't want to hear about Putin and that guy that's come over here. What's his name? Trump. I don't want to hear about what's his name. He's not important. Because when he's dead and gone, the legacy that he's left is going to kick us all in the behind. Do you know what I mean? And especially the children. You know, when our children are in their 20s and 30s, and little Billy wants to pick a job, I hope that he does pick the early years. And Jane, you know, she thinks, you know what, I'm good at caring, I'm good at nurturing. And she doesn't pick Sainsbury's over the early years. That's what people are weighing up. That's what people are weighing up. Sainsbury's, early years. Sainsbury's pays more. The family has certain needs, certain requirements, bills have to be paid. I'm gonna go to Sainsbury's, but in the long run, we know that the early years, we know that the education sector is what's gonna carry us through. It's what's gonna give us a proper prime minister, what's gonna give us a proper president, a president that actually cares, a prime minister that actually cares, because they don't care, they're good. Us on the ground, we're not good. You know, in my area I hear sirens all the time. I can call someone now and put them on speaker and say, can you tell us about the that happened last week? What happened in Lewisham the other day? When I go to my local pound stretcher, I see guys, homeless guys, stealing stuff and running out. And I bet if I go there tomorrow, I'll see that same guy stealing stuff. This is our reality. So this is why the early years is important. And this is why you should give yourself a round of applause. Can you give yourself a round of applause, please? Come on, guys. Give yourself a clap. It doesn't matter what level you're on. Your role is important. How much time do I have left?
Oh, plenty.
Plenty, yeah? Cool. It doesn't matter what level you're on. You know, what you do is important. To understand child development, to understand social impact, to understand children is so important. You know, we impact their lives. I've said it before. We impact their lives. Okay? Now, diversity. Encourage those around you. Tell your friends, tell your mates, like, listen, you're looking for a job? You're really good at caring. You're really good. Try it out. My little brother works for London Early Years Foundation. My cousin, when I was working for Bright Horizons, worked for Bright Horizons, and now has his own inflatable company. Yeah? I encourage so many people around me to go and look into the early years. You know, I'm so into early years that I'm doing early years things on my time off. Do you know what I mean? Like from mentoring, I mentor people. From just people emailing me, asking me for advice. Consulting, I do consulting. They say, oh, but you're only a level 3, how can you consult? I read. And I've got experience. So I understand what it's like and what the children need on the ground, but then I also understand what the paperwork is in the office because I ask questions. And I've got great mentors and people that I talk to on a daily basis. Alison Featherby, Kathy Brody. Do you know, there's so many names. Laura Henry. Do you know what I mean? These are people that are the modern day PRJs, Vygotskis, and these people. They understand children. You know? And it's about us having the emotional intelligence with ourselves, not only with others, to understand that, you know what? Our whole body language, our interaction, the interaction that you're having with me today can cause a whirlwind on the other side of the world. You know? A real, trust me, a tornado. I'm telling you. You know, when people are, like when I've done the Victoria Derbyshire show, there was people, children, parents that were coming out and saying, oh my gosh, that's Jamel. Tell him I said hello. Going to Nursery World, people are talking. Oh, do you know what? Jamel looked after my child in 2002. Do you know, like 2003. I've got children that are now in their 20s, like older children that have done workshops with me when I was a teenager myself, that have come up and said, you know what, Jay, you're still doing it. It's really good. You know, and that was all from my mentor. That's how important, you know, your interactions are. My uncle, he would still be doing, and he said to me the other day, I put it on my Instagram, he said he's got some projects and stuff that we're going to be doing, but this wonderful man had to stop his journey because he had a stroke. At the age of 43, had a stroke. And this man made an impact This man created a youth club, 2 big youth clubs. Simon Minot's his name. Created 2 big youth clubs in the heart of New Cross. In the heart of New Cross, which is a rough area, and combined the church and these youth clubs, and had children that were from the streets. I'm talking about like gangs, like street guys, into the youth clubs, and had them working, you know, and had them making solutions, like I said before. Who's doing that? Who's doing that? There's a few people I follow that are doing that. But are the government really acknowledging it? Or is it some kind of tax write-off? I see the BMX guys, they're amazing. They do the bike rides and things like that. But in some places they're getting shut down. But that's something productive, you know? That is something productive for the youth to do. And at the same time, we talk about, how do you say it, raising physical productivity, making children be more active. But that's something that you cut. Youth clubs are being closed down all over the place. Funding's being cut all over the place. But then we complain about knife crime. And then you blame it on one particular demographic as well. You got the guys that made the story the other day about my area of Lewisham called Blue Stories. And in the View it was cut because of some rubbish in Birmingham. But it's a real story. It's a real story. Well, it's based on a real story. And I've supported the guys, and I've watched it twice. And I would advise all of you to go and watch it as well, because we need to know that the stuff that's happening in these movies and the stuff that we are hearing about is not happening down the road or in the next town or in the next... It's happening on our doorsteps. That's how much of an important role we play. Shootings, stabbings, gang violence. But my uncle, he was in the middle of that, trying to make a change. He took me to Bournemouth, and in Bournemouth we were speaking about diversity, okay? And the difference between rural areas and the difference between the city, what was happening in the city. And when we had an exchange, our youth and their youth, you know, they were talking, and we'll say things like, robbing phones and having to lock up your door. People have got 3 locks on their doors. They're like, no, our doors are open. We're all good. Like, I said, no, you can't do that in Lewisham. You leave your door open, you come back and your TV's missing. You know, this is serious things that are happening. And us in the early years, we can impact on that. You know, imagine if we got a bunch of these youth, because they have siblings, you know, they have siblings, and a lot of them are nurturing, but we inspired them and we spoke to them and we told them, you know what, you're better than that. You're good with youth. Do you know how I know you're good with youth? Because you're in a gang. Why don't you use that skill? Why don't you use that ability to veer them off of that path and give them something productive to do? You know? And not all of the youth on the streets have criminal records, guys. You know, there's this myth about all guys that are in gangs are criminals and they do. No, not all of them are out here shooting and stabbing and all of that. Some of them are just there because they're born into that demographic. How do I know? Because I was born in that demographic. But I'm here standing talking to you guys at St. Mary's University. We all have a role to play, you know? And we're scared. We're in our communities and we're frightened. You're frightened. You're on the train, you're frightened. You're on the bus, you're frightened. You know? Someone talks to you in a particular way, you think, oh, they're being aggressive. No, they're not being aggressive. Understand diversity. Get to know these people. Go to a Caribbean shop. Go get yourself some chicken. Everyone talks about jerk and all the bait things. Go find out what Caribbean cuisine's really about. Or Asian cuisine. Or Turkish cuisine. Lebanese cuisine. This is what our society is about. Social constructivism. You know, we can all learn off of each other. We can all build each other up. It's about us not only building scaffolding in the children, but building scaffolding between us. You know, changing your knowledge and then using that knowledge to impact on others. So when you're baking in the nursery, today we can make a Jamaican rum cake. We're going to try. you know, or we're going to make some Portuguese cakes, you know, or Portuguese bread, you know, because it's really nice. You know, we can share. That's what it's about. You know, in the ancient times, they had that to a T. People were going to Egypt to study, to learn about astrology and all these kind of things. People were going to Greece, Plato, sitting down, Aristotle, talking to these people, sharing knowledge. They say that iron sharpens iron. But we shouldn't just sharpen iron in our communities. We should sharpen the iron of each other. And maybe in some weird way, we'll break down all of this rubbish, all this discrimination, all this prejudice. You know? People, when you're asked about Black history, like, what do you really know? People say, oh, Black History Month, yeah. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. But do you know about Mansa Musa? Do you know about Hannibal? Do you know about any great kings? Do you know about the do you know about the Maroons? Do you know about the Arawaks? Do you know about the Moors? What do you know? Why is Black Prince Road called Black Prince Road? Why do we think that Obama was the only black president? Why do we think that there was no black royalty? Why? Guys, we're naive in so many ways. But the main thing I want to say is that it starts from early years, guys. We have a chance to break down every wall of discrimination, every barrier that exists. Our role and job is more important than we think. Okay? And I want to end it because I know some of you guys have got to go somewhere by saying this. It's so silly, but I want you to take it with you, okay? Imagine each person as footwear. As footwear. Just deep it. Take a minute. Take a second. As footwear. Look at your shoes. Have a look. As footwear. Imagine each person in this world as footwear. Now you say, what is he talking about? He's just rambling. No, footwear is a very important thing. They come in different shapes, different sizes. But they all come with some sort of inner soul, some kind of outer soul, and a tongue, and straps. And the feet that go in them, take them on different journeys. The shoes are sold in different shops, in brackets, different cultures, different countries, but they all have the same purpose. We all have the same purpose, and that purpose is to impact on children's lives positively so they thrive. Thank you very much.